To tell you the truth, guys, when people express on how they can't stand Biswap episodes, I have to admit I'm one of those people, but I've seen much more worse, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this episode is the weakest Owl House episode ever. Like, really small problems may be a problematic episode, and I've talked about it back in 2021 in June, but after listening to the critiques involving this episode, I think it really shows that the full season of the Owl House involving filler episodes is somewhat problematic, even if it doesn't excuse on the fact that season 3 only has 3 44-minute specials. The plot of Once Upon a Swap is, well, Enid, Luz, and Cain make a deal on switching bodies, swapping their bodies, in order to understand how difficult it is on what the person's life or habits are like. I don't know, but all I know is that this is a Biswap episode, and to tell you the truth, it's not really in a way of bragging, and the punishment that is mainly doing cleaning duty, which for me personally is also some kind of a punishment, but it's mainly these three characters literally just making a bet of which life is difficult, considering that most of these characters just don't know what it's like. I try to understand since this is part of the first season, however, this just feels really phoned in to make an episode involving Biswap involving these characters. The thing is with Biswap episodes is that they hammer in on how difficult the person's life is, which I understand that's the point of the message, but it's become way overdone to the point that doing the plot centered around these characters where it's mainly hardships, but not in the same way as the other Biswap episodes, or putting a character into the father or mother's place situation. It just feels like it's just hammering in on Luz not getting adjusted to the boring Isles, even though that this is episode 8. Cain completely thinking that he is powerful, which somewhat makes sense until we get his development later on. And as for Edna, I really felt like that they really try way too hard to put Edna into this Biswap thing for the sake of having three characters having a body swap. When she takes control of Cain's body, it leads to her gaining shenanigans with other creatures that are the same size as Cain, and to tell you the truth, it's the least interest out of the three plots in this episode. Believe me when I say this, if the episode was mainly focusing on Luz and Cain having the Biswaps and that's it, then maybe I would have understood that the Biswap thing would probably make more sense. And considering that Cain took control of Luz's body, Luz taking control of Edna's body doesn't mean much, considering that she doesn't even understand how Edna's life is a lot more complicated since that she is a wanted criminal. I mean, I know that the show has established that Luz isn't thinking completely and she's a weirdo, which makes sense, but on the other hand, it doesn't change the fact that her plot is mainly the fact that she is in the body of a wanted criminal. Like, I get the whole motivation is just to give Enid more money for the sake of just trying to have some finance for her, but to tell you the truth, she doesn't even realize that after 8 episodes in, she should realize that Enid has so much experiences on avoiding the law of the Borean Isles, and I understand that she's just trying to help, but to tell you the truth, it doesn't make any difference. Well, the majority of this plot just centers around her getting arrested and being put in jail. And since this is around the time where Lilith, who is Enid's sister, is slowly gaining development and mostly going against her sister, to tell you the truth, this would have been a lot more better if we actually get to see Enid in her own body rather than Cain's. Because to tell you the truth, this is honestly a missed opportunity, which is saying a lot. Well, this episode is all about filler and mainly the lesson of the hardships of what lives are like, and you can't be able to control that life when it comes to body swap, or changing your position to make it feel what it's like to be in the other person's position. Let's be real right now. I've seen a lot more War Body Swap episodes or characters being into different positions on what the other person's life is type of episode, but in all honesty, this episode doesn't do anything interesting, and it just becomes a lot more lazy the more you watch it. When it comes to Kane's plot, I've stated it's better than the other two plots, but at the same time, this doesn't excuse on the fact that it's weak. Like, I did state that having a body swap episode involving Luz and Kane only is a good idea, but considering that the way it's executed, it really feels like that the only way for Kane to understand Luz's life is mainly just wreaking havoc, even though that's totally the opposite of what Luz does, which I understand that's the point of Kane not understanding what Luz's life is like since that she's a human. But if his main ideal is mainly doing pranks on other people when it comes to using Basha as friends, then no, not even close. Like, I understand that Luz is trying to make friends in the Borean Isles, but at the same time, Kane's ideal on doing pranks, it just doesn't fit. Like, it really doesn't. And to tell you the truth, it just really feels like when we're supposed to get the message that Luz is okay on getting bullied, even though that she's supposed to be weird, it really feels like a weird way to describe her life as getting bullied and use it as an example of getting body swapped. It just feels like a random thing to make an episode subplot out of. And with the whole plot wrapping up with a race against Basha, I have to admit, it could have been much more better if it was executed much more better when it comes to the plot. Because to tell you the truth, I just didn't find this plot to be entertaining despite my comment of it being better than the other two plots. That's literally the thing, is that whenever it comes up with ideas of having a body swap, it just uses the poor ideals. And believe me, the body swap ideals from other episodes are much more worse, but to tell you the truth, it doesn't excuse that this episode is bad, that centers around characters just doing things and learning the lessons by mainly when it comes to hardships. That's literally it, just hardships. I understand that season 1 episodes of The Owl House isn't supposed to be taken seriously when I say some of them, especially since that the final 2 episodes are a huge turning point of this series. But let's be real, this episode wasn't even funny, to the point that it just makes me question onto why the purpose of body swap is an important lesson in this show. I mean, you can make the argument all you want that body swaps is mainly a nature of what people would feel when it comes to the other person's position, but at the same time, it's still done way too many times to the point that it's becoming way more overrated than necessary. To tell you the truth, with this episode being toned down, even though it's a kid's show at the end of the day, without trying something unique when it comes to these body swap episodes, then no. It really feels like that this is the weakest, which is saying on how this is the worst episode from this show. I'm gonna be really honest with you, just watch the Gravity Falls episode, well, Dipper and Mabel have the body swap. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's a much more better episode, and it came out 7 years before this episode, and it was on the same network. And to tell you the truth, it was much more better executed, and it was a lot more humorous. If body swap episodes are still a thing being made from other cartoon companies, I'm just gonna say it right now, they probably have the interest of having the character being in the person's body, and that's mainly it. And when it came to the lesson, if they didn't do that, then I'm pretty sure that they just didn't know how to handle body swap episodes differently in comparison to the multiple body swap episodes. To tell you the truth, if I ever had the idea of doing the body swap episode, if I ever run a cartoon, I would probably try to do something different for the sake of just trying to make it a lot more interesting rather than doing the same formula again. Granted, it's a complicated text, but then again, we're living in a modern time where cartoons are still doing the same ideas from other shows, which isn't a problem. It's just that the idea of it, mainly the body swap ideal, has been done to death. I understand it's a whimper that I'm going back to the Owl House by reviewing the bad episodes, especially after reviewing the finale back in April, but it was bound to happen when those are bad episodes from the show, and this is Cartoon Crisis at the end of the day. What did you actually expect? Besides, I've been trying to find newer cartoons doing this year, and this is literally the next in line. I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 10.